everybody, and welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, we have a special guest, Jeff Gelfuso, the Senior Vice President and Chief Design Officer at Qualtrics. Qualtrics is the leader in experience management. Jeff has over 25 years of experience. He's worked as Chief Product Officer at Workday, overseeing the user experience for digital products serving 65 million customers. He's also held roles at Meta, Amazon, and Microsoft, driving innovation through a human-centered design-led approach. Jeff is a founding member of the Design Executive Council, but he's also a founding member of my Chief Experience Officer community called CXO House. And today we are talking about how to create a human-centered customer experience approach focused on three things: people, purpose, and products. Please enjoy Jeff Gelfuso. Jeff, it's so nice to see you today. Thank you for taking some time to chat with me.
And great to see you as well.
So, Jeff, we have met a few times, and I'm embarrassed to say you were in the room where I gave a speech at your event. Was it this year? And I felt when you were there, like I didn't want to talk to you too much till later because I knew if I talked to you before, I would get psyched out because I'd be so nervous.
Oh
Like, Jeff
gosh, stop it.
Fuso's in the room. Like, oh my God. But we've sort of gotten to know each other. You're part of CXO
Yeah,
House, my CXO networking group that I launched recently. You're
yeah,
really one of the first people involved. So thank you so much. And I'm
of
just so happy
course.
I've gotten to know you better, whether we're talking about your surfing, your paddle boarding, or your role at Qualtrics, but your career, you've done a lot of roles. So for those that don't know you, give us the elevator pitch of the last few
Sure.
stops of your career.
Thanks, Blake, for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to chat. I have had the good fortune over my career to be in a variety of great companies: Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Workday, and now Qualtrics. And the common thread for me through all those different roles at different companies has been focused on experience. And for me, that's primarily been in the user experience of the way people experience our software. But it runs the gamut from everything from kind of strategy and product all the way to understanding customer needs and user needs, how we go to market, how we deliver those types of products. And so I found myself in this great space over the last several years where all of this change is also happening in technology, right? Like I can date myself a little bit, even going back to when things went from on-prem to the cloud and from the cloud to the iPhone. And we all know now we're in the era of AI, and that's just opened up a ton of possibilities for us to improve the experience for our employees, for our customers. And I just love being at the center of doing that type of work.
Yeah, I'm sure since you're now in the engine room, I mean, at Qualtrics, you're literally in the engine room. So yourself with your own customers and then helping your customers be successful with their own customer experience strategies.
That's right.
Would you say, do you feel like you're in the engine room?
Yeah, sometimes it gets hot in there. um, but it does. It's a cool place to be because you're exactly like you described. I'm always going to approach it from a people-centered or design-centered approach in how we think about solving problems. But what's great about that is I'm in the midst of doing that not only within our own organization and the things that we face as an enterprise, but also then understanding our customers' problems and helping them to solve that so they can provide the best experience for their employees or for their customers.
Yeah, and I remember at the Qualtrics X4 event earlier this year, one of the big themes was that customers don't fill out surveys anymore as much. It was down
Mhm.
like 8%. And so, I mean, people associate feedback and surveys with Qualtrics. Now with AI, maybe you're changing your approach. Do you want to just
Yeah.
touch on that really quick before we get into the themes of the episode for today?
Sure. Yeah, we were talking a lot about that, and as you know, with Qualtrics, we've been involved in, and that's how we got started. Was kind of base surveys, and and moving from that to kind of always on listening and to multi-channel experiences, whether that's in ratings and reviews or call center or in location and on websites. And so we've grown into the space where we're always helping our customers listen better, understand and analyze that feedback, and then act on it. And in the most simple way, AI has helped us to reinvent the way we do surveys. So I'll give you a great example. We've recently enabled conversational feedback in all of our surveys, and when a customer turns that on, it makes it exactly like we're doing today, just having a dialogue. And I think the reason we saw some of these declines before was people don't have the time. They always think it's going to be this kind of robotic, I have to answer these certain questions, and they don't want to do it, right? So that silence is telling as well. When we launched conversational feedback, we saw actually a 10% increase in the amount of surveys that were completed, as well as over 100% more feedback, which, if you think about that, a business now is getting more detailed information about whatever question they're asking or whatever feedback that individual is giving. Sometimes that can be really ambiguous. And so we can ask follow-up questions based on what that individual is saying that gets to the deeper detail to help them understand. Was it an issue at the hotel? Was the food too cold? Did you really love the room? Etc. All of that data then our customers can see, and it gives them so much more rich insights on it. So it's actually turning around, and we're seeing that it's not only we're getting greater response rates, we're getting more feedback from our customers, and they're giving us more feedback. They're actually enjoying it more. So we thought we would see some of those responses go down and it would be more difficult or more negative, and it's actually been exactly the opposite. We've seen those survey responses go up, and we've seen the quality of that feedback and the satisfaction go up. So it's super exciting.
Yeah, when you said people don't want to do it, I sort of felt like, are you talking to me? Because I'm the worst. Like I have a lot to say about everything, but I don't always have the time to fill out surveys. But I
That's
would
right.
love, like, the worst thing you can do to a customer is when they take time to give you feedback and then you don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just interesting to see still there's such a gap in customer experience between what companies are providing and how your companies are treating them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard. Like anybody who's in a kind of CX programmatic role or leadership role, or maybe they own a voice of the customer program in their organization. Maybe on the HR side, they run talent or their people organization, and they're doing more traditional kind of pulse surveys. In the old world, that you had to think about what you wanted to try to accomplish. You had to think about the outcome you wanted. You had to go design a survey to do that. You had to deploy that survey. You had to wait to get results from that survey. You had to analyze that survey, and then you had to decide what you were going to do to take action on it. And that, for a lot of companies, was a multi-month process, sometimes even longer, right? And that can be frustrating as a customer, especially when you give feedback in the moment and you don't hear anything about it, or it's never acted on. Or as an employee, maybe you take that pulse and you feel like your company never took you seriously. That's that gap you're talking about. What's super cool about what we're doing with Qualtrics AI is we enable that to happen in real time. So customers who have enabled different parts of our kind of listening and understanding capabilities, they get those insights immediately. They get them whether they're asking questions again online, in a survey, through email, through SMS or messaging. They get that in a dashboard that they're be able to look at with recommendations that help them take action, right? So we've taken all of those things that used to take a ton of time planning, a ton of time to analyze, and then a long time to make decisions and act, and compress that down into a matter of days or hours so that people that are focused on that in their day-to-day job can really help take action.
Yeah, I love that. And it reminds me of this question. I was thinking about it when I was driving my kids to camp this morning, because I'm preparing for my own speech, for a client this fall. And the thought was, if you didn't have to do all the minutia anymore, like what would you do with your time? And that's the
Mhm.
question now I think many businesses are asking themselves, like all these things that used to take weeks and months now are done in minutes. So what are the
That's right.
implications of that for what we focus on? But before that's sort of a question that doesn't need to be answered. Let's put a pin in that.
Yeah.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about how you focus on elevating the human experience because I think that's maybe where it gets lost in business that we forget about elevating the human experience. So how can you bring our audience watching back to what's important?
Yeah. Yeah. It's great to hear you say that, like, and I know you share a similar philosophy in the work that you do and your approach to it. And I think sometimes folks like us who are in these types of roles, it can feel isolating, it feel lonely, right? We spend all of our time thinking about how to improve the experience, and yet a lot of the conversation is about technology and other areas. And so throughout my whole career, I've really focused on three principles. And for me, they start with purpose. It starts with really creating a greater sense of purpose and alignment towards a greater cause. When you start with something that brings people together, helps them either in their personal life or their professional life, they're much more likely to want to understand, they're much more likely to want to engage and really be a part of going on that journey with you. And that leads to that second one is like if you can align people around a purpose, you can really empower them to achieve the goals that you want to do so together, to help grow their skills and really achieve a set of successful outcomes together. The last thing really comes in is really in that product or program and how then you actually execute on it, right? But you can elevate a customer's experience or an employee's experience and help them really understand how to use a product better or to get to a successful outcome or maybe even to do something faster, more efficiently. But a lot of people start at the product or the technology first and they forget about purpose. They forget about people are at the center of this. It's individuals who are trying to accomplish these things. We're just giving them the tools. We're just empowering with those things. And yes, that's changing every single day. And that's helping people, especially now with AI, do more than they've ever been able to do before. And maybe even automate some of these kind of more mundane tasks that used to take them a lot of times, but those are just really only the workflow and the tasks. If you really come down to it and you think about like, why are you here? What do you want to accomplish? What's meaningful for you in your life? That's where you can really bring people along and achieve great things. And so in all the work that I do, I try to keep those three principles at heart and think about that in the work that we do at Qualtrics.
That's interesting because you've taken something so technical like AI and you're not even using all the jargon that, the LLM and the machine learning and all that stuff. And you're kind of blowing it out, if you will, and saying, but what are we trying to do? Like, why are we
Yeah,
here? And I think
that's
that's
right.
often the thing that's missing from the customer experience business conversation because we're
Yeah,
seeing a lot of businesses still cut their investments in customer experience. It feels like that. Put this
yeah,
technology in, but they haven't. There's just this awkward dance right now with I feel like
yeah.
many practitioners are struggling to get their hands around all this new tech and do it in a way that feels elegant for the employee and the customer.
That's right. Yeah. And usually what you see in some of these major waves or shifts in technology is a lot of those benefits, especially the business benefits, are around productivity or around access or maybe even communication, right? And it's typically there's a cost savings or a time savings benefit to that. And a lot of those very first waves of some of the things that even all the way back to email or sending an instant message like being able to connect with somebody over FaceTime, like it's all about that I can now do it in an instance and I can reach more people faster and easier way. That is true, but when you think about what is at the end or what is the outcome that enables you to do, that's the real benefit, right? So when you think about, wow, I can now connect with my kids over FaceTime in a moment, see how they're feeling in that day, talk to them about and really connect with them, like that's huge. Like the technology just enables me to do that, right? AI is the same way. When we start to think about, I can deepen and enrich the connections that I have with my customers. I can get them to know them better. I can understand their preferences. I can understand, the things that are more relevant or personalized to them. Like those are the real outcomes we're trying to achieve. And you know this, you talk about this all the time. It's driving to that higher sense of CSAT or loyalty or long-term relationship. The others are really just a means to get there. And so, yes, there's all the technology behind it. Yes, there's all the things that we talk about. But some of the things that we're seeing in our research is that the things that are holding companies back most from adopting some of these new capabilities isn't their ability to do so. It isn't the opportunity that they see, it's trust. Like it's the basic trust of, is this going to work for me? Is this going to be right for my brand? Is this going to be something my customers will trust? Like, so some of these industries, the hesitancy isn't to adopt a new technology, is what does it mean for them and the way that they communicate or interact with their own customers?
When you say trust, Jeff, do you mean that customers don't want to talk to this AI because they don't trust it? Or like, could you give us an example?
Yeah, there's different levels and layers of trust as you think about different industries. So imagine if we're talking about retail, right? There's a lot less risk in that industry when you're might be talking to an associate, or you might be trying to make a return or make a complete a transaction. There's a lot less there at stake, and you just want that to be a good interaction. If you're in finance or banking, like there's more at stake. And you want to make sure that like you're having a positive interaction, that you might be talking about sensitive material or information about your account or your finances, right? And so there's a little bit more of a pause to make sure that, hey, am I having a conversation that's with a real agent, not a bot, or it's not a scam? Am I giving the right information to access my account in the right way, right? If we're talking about healthcare, there's even more sensitivity around that, right? And there's definitely regulation and compliance things in both of those areas, but the trust and the level of risk increases in adopting new technologies for customers. Because imagine now I'm trying to have a conversation about maybe an ailment or something that I'm struggling with. If that provider gives me the wrong information, right, there's high risk there. Maybe I might seek the wrong treatment, or I might make a decision about my health that's not the best for me. And so there's this spectrum of trust from things that are going to be easier to adopt and understand, and customers may feel like, or companies may feel like there's less risk in deploying these types of new technologies with their customers. And then there's areas of very high risk, and especially as we get into areas of security or regulatory issues, you want to take the right steps to really ensure that the companies you're working with, the partners that you have, the agents or the technology that you're delivering is delivering not only on your brand promise, but is doing that in a trusted way that's not going to put your customers at risk.
Jeff, so you are a people manager. You manage a very large team. And we were just chatting that some of the challenges of being a manager and a leader, it's really tough. I think a lot of practitioners and
Yeah.
managers are struggling right now because there's so much change in customer experience, in tech, AI, right? It's just a lot. So, do you have any tips
Yeah.
from the people side to help empower our audience to be the best leader they can be to help their team members that are going through hard times?
Oh, yeah, gosh, that's we could talk about that for a long time. And just like we were saying earlier, I kind of always approach things from a people-centered and kind of human-centered approach first. But when it comes to kind of leading teams, um, first and foremost, it's really about understanding where they're at and meeting them where they're at. And, I think what we're seeing right now is a lot of fear, and some folks feel like, oh, my job's going to be replaced by this, or I've learned all these skills over my career, and now I need to upskill, or I need to learn new skills. Um, Some are very excited about it, and they see it as an opportunity to advance and to to take on other challenges. And other people, like I said, are really fearful about it. And so, as a people leader, I think first and foremost, I try to meet people where they're at. I try to understand kind of where they're at on that spectrum, where they're at in their career, and what are the kinds of things that I can do to coach them or create an environment for them, uh, where first we can get at the notion of, what is it that's driving them and motivating them, and then how can we maybe break down some of the obstacles for them getting there. And so one of the things that I learned really early in my career that I love is kind of a combination of Simon Sinek and Brene Brown, and um, a couple of different techniques. But Warren Berger has this book too called the A More Beautiful Question. Um, and what I love about all of those individuals and what I think I've learned from them is just having this constant mindset of curiosity. And if you approach things with this notion of curiosity and you ask questions that help you gain a deeper understanding, a lot of times you can get to that root cause or that root feeling of fear or excitement or opportunity that people are going through right now. And so if we can understand that, I think we can help them figure out a good path and a way to move forward. And whether that might be taking on a new challenge at work, maybe that might be like I said, learning new skills, maybe even trying a new role. It helps us get into a place where I think our coaching for them and our guidance for them can be much more meaningful and help them achieve the outcomes that they want.
In an industry where historically it's just such a hard industry to work in, working with customers, managers, I think, don't have the time and the energy always to really be coaches, which, in my
Yeah.
opinion, is a really big missed opportunity. What are things that companies can do to enable their customer managers, people that run customer teams? How can companies
Yeah.
free them up a little bit more so they have time to coach when they're managing?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of things that come to mind. And that we've been working on. And some are like we talked about a little bit earlier. How can you use technology? How can you use AI maybe to help automate some of those more mundane tasks or rote tasks that would then free somebody up to be able to do more strategic work, right? And so I think that's true for both the employee and the manager. There's a lot of basics around meetings and tasks and productivity and areas there that I think we're seeing lots of companies try to tackle. One of the areas that I'm super excited about that working on at Qualtrics is AI coaching. And so you think about all of the listening that we do with our customers from calls coming into a call center. We can understand and analyze how a human agent is doing, that the feedback, the responses, the tone, and we can summarize that and provide that to their manager, as well as give them coaching, agent-based coaching in real time that helps them develop. And so that's an incredible way to help an employee who, right off the bat, in just the existing behaviors that they're doing in their day-to-day job, get real-time advice. And it's very accurate. It's very suited to their role and to the job they're doing. But it's also really helpful for the manager because they can now see that advice. They can help add to that and complement it. They can check in with their employee and how they're progressing and how they're developing. And so I think you're going to see lots of other ways where more and more of that learning becomes kind of real time on the job using AI to help with some of those basics. And that's going to inform those deeper and more richer conversations between an employee and a manager to talk about the things that are probably longer term and more strategic and more about their career.
That is absolutely amazing. I think our audience is probably wondering, like, how much goes into training these AI models to be able to coach employees? That's probably a whole other can of worms that we could have a whole podcast about.
Yeah. Yeah, a whole other topic. But when you think about doing that at scale and you're collecting that from millions and millions of calls, you can train those models pretty quickly. But they are, as you said, they're adapting and they're changing all the time. But yeah, definitely a longer conversation maybe for the next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just talk about, before we get into the rapid fire, Jeff, like what you're
Sure.
excited about as a leader. Like, what's giving you inspiration and energy right now in the space?
I love that question. I was just talking to a couple of the leaders on my team this week, and I'm telling them like, and it's a Friday, so probably do this for myself today. When I go through a week and I look back and I feel like my energy was drained, right? Versus my energy being I'm excited or I feel pumped up or I feel like that was a good week. I look back over the week and a lot of the times where I feel maybe my energy was drained is when I was spending a lot of time on more administrative things, right? More things that you have to do as a leader, but that 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 feel taxing. Um, when I look at a week where I feel like, man, that was an incredible week, and I just feel pumped up and excited about it, it's usually when I've been focused the majority of that week on working directly with my team, with individuals across the team, having that day-to-day interaction and really inventing together, building together. And one of the coolest things that I'm excited about with AI is a lot of these traditional roles are blurring now, right? Like especially in product development and you think about life cycle management or kind of the customer journey, we've had a lot of these siloed roles and a lot of the handoffs between different disciplines. Some of those are coming, closer and closer together and they're blurring more and more. And so now a designer can do something that they weren't able to do before, or a product manager can, or a customer service representative can do more, and that gets me super excited because I see people trying to improve processes, trying to improve the way they interact with customers, trying to improve their internal mechanisms to solve problems in new inventive ways. And so if I look back on my week and feel like it was a good Friday, there was probably a lot of innovation and discussion with individuals about how to do that, and less so on the more administrative tasks of just running a day-to-day business.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great sort of beautiful metaphor for AI because it's supposed to allow you to do more of what you love instead of, I mean,
That's
we
right.
all hate doing this administrative stuff. And what matters is people and connection and
That's
community
right.
and
That's right.
innovation and education. So I think that's a great kind of bow to wrap our podcast with. But let's do some
So
rapid fire before we let you go.
okay.
You're probably familiar with this since you've known me for a little while. I
Yeah.
tend to ask a lot of questions anyway, so you're going to be used to this. You're going to be great for it. Are you
Okay.
ready? First question.
Let's do it.
All right, Jeff. What's the most important part of your morning routine?
Writing in my journal. I start off every morning as a little 5-minute journal that just captures all my gratitudes and my highlights of the day. And it's one of the things that I really look forward to center me for the whole day.
That's awesome. So, how do you relax at the end of a hectic day?
So uh, I love being out on the water in any kind, any form, whether that's in the ocean, in the lake, in the snow. And so when I have a stressful day or I feel like I need to kind of reset, I go for a paddle, go for a surf, go for a swim, or even just hang out and in the sunshine, put my feet in the water, and I can get that energy back. I can really feel it.
Any shows that you're currently streaming?
Oh boy. We just This is embarrassing. My wife and I were just watching a new Netflix show called Building the Band.
Okay. Well, you love
They
music, so that makes sense.
it does. It's a little embarrassing to admit, but they put a new twist on it, kind of cool twist. Uh, all those traditional shows where they try to put people together and match them up and make the next big boy band, girl band, whatever. This was a kind of interesting experiment. They put a bunch of people in these booths and they didn't know each other. And so they had to come out and audition, sing, and then the people who thought that they would be a good match with them would try to match. And then they had to, in this kind of social experiment, get together and build a band without ever meeting each other. And
Oh
then
my God,
once they do that, they come out on stage and compete. And it was pretty interesting way to see it happen.
that is cool. That's like the Love is Blind show, which I don't watch, but it sounds like a similar idea. Um,
Yeah, totally.
what's your favorite type of vacation?
Uh, Beach for sure. My wife and I grew up in Southern California and spending lots of time down on those southern beaches. And we've lived in Seattle now for most of our adult life, which is beautiful, and we love it up here. But it doesn't have that same kind of tropical feel. So anytime we get a break, we're usually headed to Mexico or an island somewhere where we can be by the water and be in the ocean.
Yeah, you actually convinced me, you influenced me to take my family. We're going in a week and a half to Mexico. So thanks for that.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, if you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh. Um, Boy, so many people. Maybe first that comes to mind because I'm such a big fan, and I've been reading his book is Bono. Um,
Yeah,
I'd love to have a meal with Bono and pick his brain a little. But I think he's just done some amazing things with you too, and music and survived for so long in a really tough business, early career. But I think he's done some incredible things for humanity as well.
yeah.
And
That's a
I
great
just
answer.
really admire that.
He's
Yeah,
universally loved, no matter who
yeah.
you are, where you are, everyone loves him. And if you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, Jeff, what would it be?
Uh, Boy, I think you have to live life in the moment and experience it in the moment. You only get those moments that are right there in the present. So be present and enjoy them. And um, you can't control what happens to you. You can only control how you respond to it.
I love that. That's such a great note to end on. Thank you for doing this. I know you're going to be
Thank
back on the
you.
show because you literally do such a great job anytime we're speaking about customer experience and leadership. So thanks again for stopping by the Modern Customer.
Well, thank you, Blake, for having me. I feel really honored and humble. And thanks for including me in the CXO house. I enjoy that group so much, and I'm learning so much from all the others that you've assembled there. So thank you for that. Really grateful.
Yeah, the CX space is just a wonderful place to be. I accidentally ended up here like 20 years ago, and I'm so glad I did. So
Yeah.
nice to see you. Nice to connect with
Nice to
you.
see you as
Everybody,
well.
you've been tuning into the Modern Customer. This has been a great interview with Jeff Gelfuso of Qualtrics, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like or subscribe and follow my social content on other platforms where I post content daily, including X, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and more.